Hello everyone, I am Gabrielle Nageer, a Dean here at St Mary's University College in Belfast, and I'm happy to welcome you to the Teaching Profession Project. Today we continue our series of The Voice of Experience, Learning from Leaders. So if you have joined us, you will know that the TPP is St Mary's contribution to the teaching profession. It's a forum where teachers can share their expertise with other teachers, sometimes joined by researchers. In this series of one-to-one interviews, the theme is leadership. Our guest practitioners may be senior leaders, or whether in primary or post-primary, or may have recently retired from senior leadership position. But today I am pleased to introduce a teacher who is at an earlier stage in his career, and his experience of leadership gives us another important perspective on our profession. My guest today is Jake Magill. Jake hails from County Armagh. He graduated with a first-class honours degree in religious studies and history. Since 2017, he has been teaching his degree subjects, and add to that Spanish, in the Sacred Heart Grammar School in Newry. He has taken on middle leader responsibilities in both academic and pastoral areas, and has been year head in the Sacred Heart since 2020. Jake also chose to study leadership in schools as part of his MEd dissertation in St Mary's. He is very involved in his parish and community, and I happen to know that Jake is a Gaelic football referee. But let's move back from sport, where leadership is very important, to education. And I will get started with the first question, Jake, a general question. But at a time when teacher recruitment and teacher retention are big issues for schools, what first encouraged you, what motivated you to join the teaching profession?
Thank you very much, Gabriel, for the warm welcome, and I'm delighted to be here to speak about my experience of teaching and leadership. I suppose when I think of my decision to become a teacher, it was certainly one of vocation. I suppose a strong sense of vocation emerged, particularly at A-level, I would say, with my A-level teachers, in religion, history and Spanish. But when I suppose reflect more about the motivation for entering the profession, I suppose I'm drawn to think about four areas really. Firstly, a pastoral area. Like I'm a teacher, yes, but I suppose I consider myself firstly a pastor who teaches. And my vocation, I believe, rests in the contribution made by my grandparents, but particularly my parents, and the role that they have played, my mum and dad, in, I suppose, teaching me and encouraging me to be of service to others. So pastoral was a key reason for, I suppose, me entering into the profession. There's also the academic reasons, and I was always enthralled by the passion of my A-level teachers, their love for their subjects, and that was something that I wanted to share, and I wanted to, I suppose, share and communicate my love for particularly religious studies. Faith is another, I suppose, undercurrent here to my decision to become a teacher, and I do have a strong sense that this is, I suppose, God's call in my life to serve the church, and of course in a particular way to serve a school community. So I have a great sense of fulfilment that I am living according to his plan. And finally, service. I believe, I suppose, underpinning all of pastoral and academic and faith, I suppose, reasons for my vocation is this desire to serve. I love working with people. I love serving people. I love interacting with people and walking alongside people. That's what gives me energy, and particularly being given the opportunity to have the splendid company of students and enabling and walking alongside them on their journey to achieve their potential. Sure, what else would you want to be,
Yeah, well, you've expressed that in a very passionate way, Jake. You know, that desire to accompany students, to motivate other students, and to interact with people. So I'd say relationships with people is coming through as being very important to you. Can you talk a little about how you have developed leadership? I'm not talking about, you know, the promoted roles now, but leadership as a teacher. You know, where do you stand in that?
I suppose fundamentally, you know, as a teacher, as a leader of learning in the classroom, like I'm aware obviously of the Learning Leaders document that has emerged that informs and directs good practice. And, you know, I do first and foremost see myself as a leader of learning, you know. Without all of the background noise, my first commitment is to the students that sit in front of me. The best act of service that I can give them is to be prepared, is to be a provider, a facilitator of exceptional learning experiences, and I suppose meeting their needs, which is so important, you know, to ensure that each student within my class has a voice. Each student, you know, often I wonder, you know, how many students go through a school day without someone calling them by name? And that leader of learning, calling someone by their name, calling a student by their name, is something that I suppose I think is of significant importance when I think about leadership. I suppose also, you know, beyond the classroom, it's also the simple things. You know, when I first started, I suppose, as a temporary teacher in a secondary school, I made the time to speak to people, to get to know people. From the receptionist that met me at the door, to the members of staff in the corridors, to the students, you know, I wanted to take the time to get to know, to be with people, and I suppose to learn from people as well. So in terms of leadership and developing that leadership, you know, I can remember, for example, the vice principal of the first school where I worked temporarily coming to me and saying, Jake, you know, I see you've done some work on the impact of bereavement on a school community, and I would like you to share your experience and some insight with a particular year group where this experience had been, I suppose, relevant. And I suppose for a split second I thought to myself, me? Like, I'm only in the door here. Surely there's someone better equipped to do this than me. But then I suppose I reflect and I said, you know, Jake, you need to take these opportunities. This is an opportunity for you. You may not be totally comfortable. You may not think you're totally the right person for it, but someone trusts in you, someone wants you to do it, and sometimes you have to step up and to do that. And it was a really, I suppose, my first experience of that leadership at, I suppose, at a whole school level. And then, of course, beyond that, it gave me the confidence to lead a Lenten prayer service each week for teachers and students in the same school. So, you know, the experience of being led and being encouraged by someone else gave me great confidence, you know, to, I suppose, lead beyond the classroom, okay? Because the classroom's obviously the bread and butter, that's the nuts and bolts, that's what I love most about my time in school.
You've given us so many points to think about there in that response. Thank you, Jake. You know, particularly with regards to getting to know your pupils and really invest in the relationships with the school community, everybody, with everyone who works in the school. And then your comments about how other people show a little bit of faith in you and give someone a chance and show some confidence in a colleague, how important that is. So would that be a model for you then, like sort of at some point maybe in the future, would you believe it's important just to give somebody else a chance and to...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I suppose, you know, it's something that I always, and sometimes it's, you know, in the informal ways, you know, sometimes it's not in the formal ways, but in terms of even the informal ways, you know, where I feel a particular duty when maybe a student teacher comes to the school, you know, as a younger member of staff, I feel a duty to them, but also if a new member of staff joins us, I always make the effort to reach out to them, to make them feel part of the community, because I really valued when someone did that for me, you know. And I always, I suppose, in terms of the leadership, I always make them aware that, you know, if they need anything at all, I am there for them, and I'm more than happy to help, you know. Yeah. The reality is, I suppose, I'm always trying to ensure that, you know, I suppose the light of good practice shines from other people. You know, it's not about me. It's not about Jake Magill, you know. It is about the students and encouraging other people to provide the students and to be with each other, but to provide the students with the best possible experience, whether that be of a curriculum subject or within the wider remit of the school, encouraging people even to take the football team, which I'm heavily invested in my current school, you know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's so good too, that you recall, you know, those days whenever you needed someone to put you at your ease, make you feel at home. You did take on, you stepped up to take on posts of responsibility at a fairly early stage in your career. So you showed that willingness and courage, really, you know, to do that. So the atmosphere, you know, must have been right for you there. But it does bring with it certain challenges, certain pressures, you know, to do that. So how do you reflect on that, you know, to be taking on promotional points, you know, at an earlier stage in your career?
Absolutely. I suppose, you know, there are, I suppose, two major things that give me the confidence and the courage, as you've said there, to take that leap, you know. And I suppose the first one was in relation to the relationships that I had built up in the school community. I had established really positive relationships with the students that I was serving, both in the class and extracurricularly. I'd built up strong relationships with other members of the school staff, and beyond, stakeholders beyond that as well. So that gave me the confidence that my, I suppose, focus on relationship and knowing people and being with people aligned with the ethos of the school. And collectively, that gave me the courage then to step up and to take the responsibility. And the other side of it is this, you know, I've been very fortunate that I've had principals who believed in me, leaders in schools who believed in me and encouraged me. But more than just encouraging me, they created an atmosphere where I felt supported. I felt, yes, maybe it is early. Maybe, you know, and inevitably I have so much to learn here. I have so much to learn from other experienced members of staff. Yet there is that belief, there is that support, and that gives you that little bit of confidence. The pressures are inevitable, you know, but in terms of responding to those pressures, I always try to think about why I'm doing it. If, you know, ultimately there are days which there are more challenges and your priority obviously is the class in front of you, and there are many other distractions that come your way that deserve their time as well. But my focus is always firstly on the class in front of me, and my focus is always on why. Why is this important? Why am I doing it? And of course it's as I suppose, an act of service for the student or the parent or the staff member, whoever it is that I'm working alongside, you know. And of course you need a strong network of support to sustain you in the roles, particularly when you take them on at a relatively early stage of your career, you know.
Okay, thank you. And, you know, you've talked about that network of support. Your own professional learning will be, you know, woven through that. You know, how do you advance that? You know, how do you pursue that? And at a time when professional support for teachers is one of those aspects of the profession that it needs to be strengthened, needs to be improved.
I suppose, you know, as teachers, we all have this insatiable desire to be perfect. We're all pursuing perfection. And of course, the reality is that always lies beyond us, you know. However, we all want to be the absolute best that we can be for the students that we serve and for the staff that we journey alongside. And I suppose it's that commitment which reminds me, even in the busyness of a day, a busyness of completing specifications and trying to respond to the many different demands on your role, that you have to set time aside. you know, you have to be an informed practitioner. You have to set time aside, whether it be for independent reading, whether it be to attend an online webinar, or whether it be to participate in some external project. For example, the master's program here at St. Mary's, you know, setting time aside for that, because it will impact, you know, who you are and how you do things in the school that you serve, you know. And I suppose, you know, the other side to it is setting time aside. Like, for example, EDIS obviously is emerging and going to become very, I suppose, the main provider in education. And that I was part of the user focus group for that. And that's, why did I do that? I suppose I didn't have very much time to do it, but I thought, look, it's better to be informed of this so that I'm in a position that I'll be able to share my experience of being informed in the building of this, or I suppose the rolling out of this platform for other staff and in the school. And the other thing that's crucial to teacher professional in terms of setting time aside, obviously we're coming off the back of ASOS and action short of strike action, which has impacted and limited the time we've had as a staff to gather for staff development, etc. However, I've always made the effort to participate in, for example, our school's learning and teaching group. Just recently there, a number of us presented, and that's a voluntary commitment, but a number of us presented at a staff development day examples of good practice, you know. So I suppose it's setting time aside because you know why and you want to be the best for, I suppose, the best that you can be for the students that you serve. It's also too about ensuring that, you know, you're informed, that you're up to date, that your practice is the very best it can be. And, you know, I suppose the other side to it is in relation to, you know, surrounding yourself with colleagues who are committed to teacher professional learning. Like, I know there's a number of colleagues and we often would have professional conversations very casually and informally, but what are you doing? How would you, you know, do that at A level? God, that's something maybe I could try out. And it's those down-to-earth, casual conversations that inform practice. Like, for example, myself and a colleague in school recently attended a teaching and learning conference at Eton College, you know, and that was, you know, the two of us giving up our time. It was at the start of the summer to go and to see what was on offer, to try and get some takeaways that might help to enhance, to complement and enhance the good practice that we as professionals espouse, but also as a school community that we would be committed to, you know.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Those professional conversations with your colleagues, you have so much to share with each other, and even just to encourage that generosity that people are willing to share, you know, that in itself. You know, you talk passionately about so many aspects of school life, but there is no hiding from the fact that, you know, middle management and teaching generally is a demanding job, that there must be days and evenings when you are exhausted. You know, how do you protect yourself? You know, how do you look after your own well-being? And, you know, what would be, you know, your advice for teachers generally, you know?
I suppose, yes, there's the old adage that you can't pour from an empty cup, as they say, you know. And like, I suppose we are high intensity relators in our profession, in our vocation, you know. Our vocation is, you know, how many people do we encounter each day? And, you know, I am always keen to be totally present to the people that I'm encountering. It's not that I'm just looking at them and what they're saying is going in one ear and out the other. You want to be totally present. But you're 100% right. To be able to do that, you need to prioritise well-being. Your well-being is absolutely crucial. And I know for myself, when I stop, I stop. And I'm good at switching off most of the time. You know, don't ask my fiance, but I'm good at switching off most of the time. You know, I make the disconnect and I say, look, I've done my best on that. I cannot be all things to all people at all times. Sometimes you have to say no, sometimes. And, you know, I am pretty good at switching off. But I would go back, I suppose, to the strong network around me. Switching off is helped by one of the strongest supports that I have, and that is my golden retriever, Bruce. You know, coming home in the evening and getting out for a walk with him that is my time to just unwind from the day. And I suppose, you know, at a family level, we all, you know, for example, we'd have breakfast together in the morning and with dinner each evening, and breakfast is a chance to get ready. What's going to happen this today? And our evening meal together is a reminder to think back, like how has everyone's day been? And I find that nourishes me. Taking that time set aside from work. I'm just a son at the table, you know. I'm just a brother at the table, you know. And you set aside all your responsibilities. You set aside all of your maybe pressures, your to-do lists, all of those things to just be a child and to be a brother, you know. And that reinvigorates me. I'm also blessed to have very good friends from many different walks of life. You mentioned refereeing earlier, some friends from the refereeing fraternity that keep me grounded, you know, and I suppose also friends, critical friends in school and outside of school that I know that I can go to, that if I find something, this is just not sitting right with me, you know, I just find this is causing me strain, that I can go and they help to alleviate that, you know. It's so good to have, I suppose, those critical friends. I cannot underestimate, you know, for me, the importance of faith, you know. I suppose receiving the Eucharist each Sunday gives me strength. It nourishes my spirit for the week ahead and for the service that I am called to do. And also I belong to a prayer group, you know, Lectio Divina prayer group, where it helps me to reflect on Scripture and to see, you know, where God is active and working in my life, because ultimately that sustains me, you know, that keeps me going.
Thank you. Thank you. And we are winding up now, so perhaps just as we draw closer to the end, could you think of one or two, well, maybe even just one individual who has made an impression on you in the teaching profession?
First, I've been blessed. There have been so many teachers that I've had, colleagues, leaders, but one in particular in terms of the teaching profession. I can remember my first day as a temporary member of staff covering a maternity post in my current school. And I was just, you know, getting through the first few periods and went up for my break time, and I was in sitting down and sort of keeping myself up. People were very welcoming and all of that. But then I saw the principal coming in, and I had met her. It was such a wonderful welcome, warm welcome that I received from her. But you know yourself, you're sort of looking, you know, keeping a low profile, so to speak. It's your first day, you've just taught your first lessons in the school. And lo and behold, she plonked herself down beside me. And I was just, first of all, the fact the principal was in the staff room, and second of all, that she'd chosen to take notice of me and to sit down beside the newest member of her staff. That in itself blew me away, you know, and just gave me that sense of welcome. I suppose the second thing, she said, "Son, there's many skills that I've mastered, but one that I haven't mastered is reading minds. If you need absolutely anything, or there's anything that you're worried about, you come to my door, because it's always open." And, you know, for me, and we went on to talk about football, because she's a great sporting fanatic as well. We went on to talk about football. And, you know, in that split second, I got the impression that this leader, this principal, was there with me, with us as a staff, and for me, for us as a staff. There was just a total presentness.
She really called you son?
She called me son, yeah. And actually, interestingly enough, you know, some of the research, the educational research on transformational leadership talks about how transformational leaders see other people as precious sons and daughters. So in that instance, probably unknowing to her, she was being herself, her authentic self. Yes. She was espousing the very best of what it is to be a transformational leader, and that has left an indelible imprint on my mind. It just made me feel at home. Absolutely. In my current school.
Absolutely.
You know?
I'm not surprised at all that particular person impacted so strongly upon you. And last question, any advice for our student teachers?
I suppose, when I think back on my own student teacher journey and my own beginning teacher journey, and now, this is my 8th year of teaching, I suppose the advice that I would give would be to remember your why. Remember, I suppose, what initiated that desire to become a teacher. Because what sparked that desire to become a teacher is what's going to sustain you in both the wonderful moments, and you look back, yeah, this is why I do it, but also in the more difficult moments. This will be a light for your path as you journey through your teaching career. I would often advise teachers and colleagues, but I advise in particular student teachers to always look out for the little whys each day. The little whys every single day. There are, I suppose, revelations of little whys, why you got into teaching. And it's about being attentive to those, because if you're attentive to those, they will fuel your professional flame and they will provide you with so much personal fulfillment as a teacher.
Oh, thank you so much, Jake. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So on behalf of everybody, all of our teachers, I'd like to thank Jake for coming along and for sharing his voice of experience. And our student teachers in particular will be very interested in listening to your views as well. So listen out for news of the TPP and subsequent interviews, and have a good day.